A single dying ember glowed red in the vast Wyoming darkness. Thomas Mitchell watched it fade. 3 years. 3 years he'd been running from the ghost of his own life. Then he heard the sound. Not the wind. Something dragged. 20 yards from his fence line, she lay broken. A Lakota woman, young, bleeding, crumpled against a cold stone. Her name was Ayanna. Her wound was a bullet hole. Fresh blood stained her torn dress. She looked up at him with eyes that had seen too much war. "You're the one," she whispered. Her voice was like dry leaves. "The one who helped when the White Death came." He remembered the smallpox. He risked his neck bringing medicine. It was just the right thing to do. He didn't want a medal. He certainly didn't want this. "Soldiers," she simply said. "I was running." Ice formed in Thomas's gut. Colonel Harrison at Fort Mitchell was making noise. Bad noise. "You're safe now," Thomas said, trying to believe it. "I'll take you to your people." "No." The word was a knife blade. "They cannot know where I've been. I cannot return until I find what I lost." Thomas knew loss. His wife, Martha, gone 3 years. His ranch house was a silent tomb. "You'll die out here," he told her. Ayanna just met his gaze. In her eyes he saw a woman who was already dead inside, just waiting for the body to catch up. "Then I die with honor intact." The choice hit him. Martha's memory, her belief in doing right. "You don't have to die at all," he said quietly. "I've got a warm place." She studied him. "Why would you risk this?" "Soldiers will ask." "Let me worry about my people," Thomas said. He reached down. She put up a trembling hand. "Wait." That word again. Always a twist. "If you do this, there is no going back. What follows me will follow you." He paused. He was a simple rancher. What was he about to get into? Then the words that changed everything. "You'll have to carry me." He thought she meant her body. He thought he was saving a life. He lifted her, feeling the surprising lightness of her frame against his chest. But as they walked, he realized the weight was different. It wasn't her body he carried. It was the weight of her future. A weight that felt like possibility. The ranch house was a quarter-mile away, its light a small, yellow promise. Thomas had no idea that within its walls, his simple act of kindness was about to spiral into a deadly, unforgiving game. He carried her across the threshold, the smell of wood smoke and coffee. Familiar. Safe. Ayanna's head rested on his shoulder. "The parlor," he muttered. "Fireplace. I can set up a bed." "No," she insisted, weak but firm. "Not where you entertain guests. I'm a burden you chose to carry." He looked up the dark staircase. Martha's room. Closed for 3 years. The place where love had lived and died. A mausoleum. "There's a room upstairs," he said, his voice raw. "Clean sheets. Warm." Ayanna looked at his face in the lamplight. She knew. "Your wife's room." It wasn't a question. "Yes." Each step up the creaking stairs was a step back into his own past. "She's been gone 3 years," Ayanna noted. "And you have not been back." "No." At the door, Thomas's hand shook. "Thomas," she whispered, "I can sleep in the barn. This is a sacred space." "Yes, you should," he insisted, pushing the door open. Martha would have insisted. Moonlight flooded the room. The four-poster bed, the lace curtains, the silver brush. Everything exactly as Martha had left it. It didn't feel like a tomb. Not tonight. He set her down gently. Ayanna's eyes moved across the objects. "She sounds like a woman of great heart." She was. He gathered supplies, clean cloth, laudanum, sharp scissors. "When she died," Thomas admitted, unguarded, "I thought I'd follow her pretty quick. Didn't see the point in staying." "But you did stay. Maybe there was still something I was supposed to do here." As he cleaned the bullet wound, it was infected, her skin burning hot. Ayanna told him about her own ghosts, her brother, her mother, her intended husband, all gone, all because of the widening war. "We are both carrying ghosts," she observed. "Seems like it." She lay back, exhausted, the heavy quilt pulled to her chin. Just before sleep took her, she spoke again. "The thing I lost," she murmured. "It was not an object. It was hope." Thomas pulled the quilt up higher. "You carry your dead wife's love like medicine," Ayanna finished. "It makes you strong enough to help others." He backed out of the room. He didn't go far. He sat in the chair outside the door. Martha's chair. Tonight the memories were company, not torment. Outside the snow started. Light, quiet, covering the old world. Inside, two wounded souls were sheltering hope. The crushing loneliness Thomas had carried for 3 years hadn't vanished. It had been joined by possibility. The possibility of a future he hadn't planned. A future that was, in fact, already here. Dawn came. The sky was gray. Thomas woke with a crick in his neck and a sudden, sharp fear. The sound that stirred him wasn't the wind. It was movement. He found Ayanna in the kitchen. She was facing the window. She was wearing one of Martha's dresses, a simple, faded blue calico. The sight hit him, unexpected, familiar, almost welcome. "You should be resting," he said. "I needed to see," she answered, still watching the horizon. A thin plume of smoke twisted into the sky. "They're coming." "Who?" "The soldiers. The ones who shot me, and others." Thomas squinted. "Riders. Too many. Too close." The ice was back in his stomach. "Why didn't you say anything last night?" he demanded. "You wouldn't have slept," she said. Then she hesitated. "And I hoped I was wrong." This was the first twist. She wasn't running just from a bullet. She was running from information. "I was married to a white man," she revealed. "William Carson." Thomas blinked. That was a high-stakes complication. "He was killed 2 weeks ago," she went on. "The soldiers think I have something that belonged to him." She reached into the folds of Martha's dress, a small leather pouch. "Papers," she said. "Land grants. Signed by the territorial governor. William found gold on treaty land. These documents prove the government's been stealing from my people." Boom. Thomas instantly grasped the weight. These papers weren't just proof. They were a match. They could start a war, or stop one. If they kill me, the proof vanishes. He looked back at the horizon. The riders were closer now. "There's a root cellar. You can hide." "No, they'll kill you. I'm done running, Thomas." They stood frozen, her in his dead wife's dress, him realizing he was already too deep. "There's another way," he murmured. Minutes later, 9 mounted soldiers, Colonel Harrison, rigid and precise, deadly. "We're looking for an Indian woman," Harrison announced. "Not here," Thomas replied, folding his arms. "We'll search anyway. She murdered a white man." Second twist. Murder. The stakes just went through the roof. "What's her name?" Thomas asked. Harrison hesitated. "We don't have it." And then Ayanna stepped into view, wearing the calico dress, her arm in a sling, her chin high. "Good morning, gentlemen." Third twist. The lie. The brilliant, insane, reckless lie. "I'm Mrs. Mitchell," she announced, clear as a bell. "Is there a problem?" Thomas didn't flinch. He played the beat. "We married yesterday. Pastor William's in town. Isn't that right, darling?" Ayanna didn't miss a beat. She nodded, calm as a spring morning. It was a beautiful ceremony. The colonel's face went granite. "This is irregular. She's half Lakota." "Her father was French-Canadian," Thomas explained, calm as a judge. "Been living in Denver. Came to start over." Harrison stared. He was furious but cornered. They couldn't arrest a white man's new wife without proof. Not yet. We'll confirm with the pastor. Please do. And meanwhile, I'd appreciate it if you got off my land. Silence. Then Harrison signaled his men. They rode off, leaving a cloud of dust and pure danger hanging in the air. Thomas finally exhaled. Mrs. Mitchell, Ayanna repeated, a faint wry smile touching her lips. It was all I could think of, Thomas admitted. Seems safer. And the pastor? He'll cover for us. But you understand, they'll be watching us now, and to keep up the story, we'd have to live like husband and wife. I'm not your wife, she stated, her face serious again, and I won't try to be. I don't want that, Thomas replied. But maybe we figure out what we are together. She gave the gentlest of nods. Mrs. Mitchell, she said again, testing the words. I suppose I could learn to answer to that. Thomas smiled. A real one. Good, because I think we're going to need each other. Outside, snow began to fall again, light, covering the tracks. Inside, two strangers stood as something new, something just beginning to take root. They had just bought themselves time. But time always runs out. 3 weeks. 3 weeks of walking a knife's edge. They had settled into a rhythm. Separate rooms, shared meals. The small town of Cedar Falls had swallowed the sudden marriage, with a lot of gossip, thanks to a forged certificate from Pastor Williams. The lie was holding. Barely. It was a quiet Thursday. Ayanna was hanging laundry. Then she stopped, frozen. Riders, 3 of them. Lakota warriors on painted horses, riding with the easy, deadly grace of men who belong to the land. Thomas, her voice was tight. He joined her, saw the men, recognized the lead rider. Joseph, Ayanna's brother. My people, she said, my brother and 2 of his friends. The men dismounted in silence. Joseph's face was worn, his eyes sharp. Sister, he said, in Lakota. Then to Thomas, you are Thomas Mitchell. I am. You married my sister without family, without ceremony. I married him to survive, Ayanna cut in. Honor was a luxury I couldn't afford. And now, Joseph demanded, are you his wife or his prisoner? I'm neither. I'm my own choice. Free. Joseph's eyes narrowed. The conversation had to feel like a betrayal to him. And then the fourth, biggest twist. And what of the papers? Joseph asked. Thomas froze. Papers? The documents were gone. Ayanna said she'd lost hope, not an object. Joseph didn't blink. The gold mine documents. The land grants William Carson left her. Proof that your government's been stealing. Thomas whipped his head around to Ayanna. He was stunned. She hadn't lost them. She had hidden them. She had lied to him. Slowly, Ayanna reached into the folds of Martha's dress. She pulled out the leather pouch, the one he'd seen once 3 weeks ago. Wordlessly, she walked to the fire pit. No! Joseph cried out, alarmed. Thomas raised a hand to stop him. Let her choose. Ayanna struck a match. She dropped it. The flame caught the dry leather and the thick parchment inside. Quickly, fiercely, the documents curled and blackened into ash. Fifth twist. The truth wasn't a weapon. It was a burden. And she just destroyed the evidence of a war crime. Why? Joseph's voice was tight with grief and anger. Because William died for those papers. Because soldiers hunt me for them. Because they only lead to more blood. She watched them burn, unblinking. I'm tired of death. You choose the white man's peace over our justice. I choose a different fight, Ayanna said, one that doesn't end with another grave. Joseph looked between them, a silent, agonizing appraisal. Do you trust this man? I do. Joseph turned back to Thomas, his last, most important test. She carries grief, fear, anger. Can you carry that too? Thomas remembered the first night. You'll have to carry me. He understood now. "I'll try," Thomas said. "And when I can't, maybe she'll help carry mine." Joseph nodded, a deep, slow nod of acceptance. He stepped toward the dying fire, gathered a handful of the warm ash, and let it scatter on the wind. "The truth is gone," he said, "but maybe peace is worth more than truth." He spoke to Ayanna in Lakota before riding off. Thomas didn't understand the words. What did he say? She smiled faintly, a real, unguarded smile that lifted the weight from her face. "That love makes fools of us all, and maybe the world needs more fools than warriors." They stood in the cold. The last wisps of smoke faded. "You know," Thomas said, hesitant, "those papers could have changed things." "Or started another war," she replied. He looked at her. He had to say it. He had to know. "I want to give you more than just kindness, Ayanna. I want to give you a reason to stay." She didn't hesitate. "You already did." "What's that?" "You," she said softly. "You carried me when I couldn't stand. Now maybe I can help carry you." Thomas reached for her hand. The first time. Her fingers were warm, real, steady. As they walked back toward the house, the grief he had carried for 3 years didn't vanish, but it felt lighter, transformed. They were in a new space now, not built on a lie for the soldiers, not built on vengeance for the tribe, but built on the fragile, radical choice to trust each other. The snow had melted. The ground was softening. Something was going to grow here. Something was finally beginning. A new life. And that's the true story of how Thomas Mitchell, a man running from his past, found himself carrying someone else's future, and in the process, saved his own soul. This story is only possible because we have an amazing community of subscribers. If you want more true stories of high-stakes survival and incredible twists of fate, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe now. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next journey.